Tonight's game did something that has not happened all season in my mind, and that is proved the Oklahoma City Thunder's flaws and kind of established a blueprint to kind of try to beat this team and the things that they are going to need to improve on in order to win an NBA title this season. Because look, I, despite tonight's kind of humiliating loss for the Thunder, still think they're right up at the top in terms of favorites to win it all. They were my pick before the season to win the title, and I'm sticking to it. I totally believe they have enough to win the title. Now, obviously, I hope my Mavs win it. But regardless, the Thunder are a great basketball team. Tonight's game does not change that. It was an outlier shooting game in a lot of ways, 5 of 32, really, really bad. But at the same time, this game established their two main flaws, and that is number one, shooting, and number two, size. And I think those are numbers that are going to be tough to fix without Chet Holmgren for sure. But when they get him back, even, I still think those flaws could persist even at a lesser level, but still, those are the things that the Thunder are going to have to improve on to win the West and be a serious, like, not just serious title contender. They're obviously a serious title contender, but to win an NBA title, because they're not at the point where they're trying to be a contender. They're at the point where they're trying to win a title. So you almost have to look at things with a little bit more of a nitpicky eye when you're dealing with a team like the Thunder. But tonight, it's not nitpicking. It was obvious. Their biggest issues were exposed on a national stage, and I think we got to talk about it today. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. Uploading every single day, multiple NBA videos daily. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. So with that being said, let's start with the positive. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm bashing the Thunder. I think they're a great team, and like I said, I picked them to win the title, and I still think they certainly can. They have the best net rating in the league. Now, tonight's game doesn't factor into that stat, which is good because they lost by 17, and it really wasn't all that competitive a game, especially in the second half. But they're likely, I would still think, going to be the one seed in the West. They have a 3-game lead already. They also have one of the easier schedules in the league remaining as well, which certainly doesn't hurt. I think there's a good chance they kind of run away with the top seed in the Western Conference, win that by 5 or 6 games. And I realistically am not sure there's a team in the West, despite how good the West is, that can seriously challenge for that number 1 overall seed. With that being said, the flaws are very clear. Number 1 is shooting. Shooting is your biggest flaw for this Thunder team, in my opinion. And I mean, when you look at the numbers, they're averaging top 10, 8th in three-pointers attempted. But when you look at the three-point percentage, they have a bottom, I mean, it's not like horrible three-point percentage, but it's certainly below average. They are a below average shooting team that shoots a ton of threes. And that's not a great recipe for like sustained elite level offensive success. Now, certainly I don't want to sit here and act like they're a bad offensive team. They are a great offensive team, but the offensive end was a massive issue tonight. They don't have like an incredibly elite offensive rating. They're only 8th in the league. Defense is where they win games and where they're going to win a championship this year if they're able to. But also the rebounding numbers are bad. They have the 3rd worst rebound percentage in the league. And I think rebounding percentage is a better stat here to look at than actual total rebounds, because they are about 20th in total rebounds per game. But this rebounding percentage factors in the pace of play and doesn't just look at the base numbers. And I think it's a better statistic here that shows how poor the Thunder are rebounding the ball, especially defensively. They have the 2nd worst defensive rebound percentage in the entire league. And look, I understand that Chet Holmgren being out for all but 5 games this season plays a big part into that. Chet will come back and he will help improve the rebounding. He will help improve the size, which is also an additional added issue when you look at the rebounding. It's because of the lack of size. And that was a big issue tonight, stopping Giannis attacking the rim. They just couldn't do it. They didn't have an answer for him. And it created shots for Giannis's teammates as well. And just the ability to get to the rim on OKC and attack the rim with force and get these offensive rebounds and out-rebound the Thunder and all that stuff was a big plus for the Bucks, and it was a big reason that they were able to win this game. And it's very clear that those are the two main things that OKC is going to have to address, because even when you bring Chet back, I still think physicality on the interior might be a bit of an issue for this team. I still don't think they're going to be like an incredibly elite rebounding team. And the other thing is, as much as people talk about Chet as a stretch big, and I'm not going to sit here and act like he's not. He's shooting almost 38% from 3 this season, and he was very good from the 3-point line last season as well. But he did shoot poorly in the playoffs last year, and I'm not going to sit here and act like he's like a unbelievably high volume, insanely elite shooter. He's a very good shooter for a big. Let's not take that away from him at all. But I don't think he is by himself going to come in and transform the shooting of this team entirely. Now, yes, his spacing is valuable when it comes to a lineup without Hartenstein on the court, but Hartenstein's passing and connective ability has been a big part of the success of this offense recently. So I think there's a give and take there when you take Hartenstein off the court. Now, obviously, Chet is the better player, and I think is still going to be more valuable to this team's success. But it's certainly an interesting thing to look at. And honestly, if I was the Thunder right now, first things first, I would want to add a truly elite shooter to the mix. That they have the assets. That's the scariest thing about the Thunder, in all honesty, is they have the assets to just outbid anybody in the league for pretty much any player. They have that role players that other teams would be very interested in, and a absolute gluttony of picks with which they can use to just outbid anybody for any player. I would be calling the Nets tomorrow for Cam Johnson. The Nets are clearly in tank mode. Cam Johnson is 28, having the best season of his career, shooting the ball incredibly well. If I was the Thunder, I'd be like, oh yeah, Brooklyn, here's 2 first-round picks for Cam Johnson. Oh, that's not enough? Here's 3. Just go get a guy who provides real size and real spacing. I understand he's not going to like solve the rebounding issue overnight, but the rebounding issue will be less of an issue with Chet back. And adding another guy with size in Cam Johnson, who would basically be the biggest wing on the team by a decent chunk, I don't see how that would hurt. I struggle to see how adding an elite spacer to this type of team, a guy who also I think is a pretty unselfish player who seems to fit in any team, he's the perfect fit for OKC. And it just seems like an absolute no-brainer that if I was OKC, I'd be like, oh yeah, here's 3 first-round picks for Cam Johnson. Is it an overpay? Sure. Do I care? No. The goal is to win a title if you're OKC. You have unbelievable amounts of assets. And here's the thing, man. I get that first round picks are valuable, but they have a very deep roster already. I mean, SGA, J-Dub, Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, Kaysen Wallace, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso, Aaron Williams, Aaron Wiggins, AJ Mitchell, Kendrick Williams. That's like, what, 11 guys who are like, I think, legitimate good rotation players. And that's not even including the other Jalen Williams as well, who hasn't played this season. Like, they have 12 serious rotation guys. What are these first round picks going to amount to? I mean, I know they're valuable assets, but I think they're more valuable assets for trade than for actual use at this point, because this roster has so many solid players already. They're not struggling for depth. A lot of these first round picks are just going to wind up being guys who just get stashed, like Topic for this year, for example. So if I was the Thunder, it's a no brainer. Use the picks to upgrade the team. The biggest issue this team has right now is shooting. Go get an elite shooting wing who's a good defender and provides some size. It feels like a no-brainer to me. Maybe I'm missing something, but I truly believe that if OKC were to get a guy like Cam Johnson, who's going to play his role at a very high level and is going to be the best shooter wing on the team just overnight, would make this team like almost unstoppable in the West. I feel like they're already a very hard to stop team in most matchups, but a team like the Bucks that has the size and physicality to just out rebound them, out physical them on the interior, and also the Bucks have just been so good defensively. The ability to harass SGA with defensive guys like Andre Williams or Andre Jackson and AJ Green and guys like that, just was clearly too much for the Thunder tonight. It was a mismatch that I did not expect. And it should be an eye-opening moment for the Oklahoma City Thunder if they want to win a title this season, that they are not a perfect team. There needs to be continued growth, both with the roster they have right now. And I would think also there is plenty of opportunity to add one more piece and truly solidify this team as not just a championship contender, but a serious championship favorite. With that being said, that's going to do it for this video. I hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.